Dear listener, hello. Breaking news. Legal proceedings commenced by a Ms. Jacqueline Henderson. To help us break it down is the media editor of Mediaweek, Natasha Lee. Hello, Tash.
Hello, friend. How are you?
I'm great. Were you hoping for a quiet Tuesday?
I thought maybe it might be a quiet Tuesday. I love how these events and these media releases always drop when we're close to deadline.
Yeah. Challenging, hey?
Used to happen in radio all the time when we're getting ready for news time, we're getting ready for like top of the hour, and that is when they would drop something like very cheeky, thinking we wouldn't pick up on it.
Yeah, very cheeky. You know all those tricks. You know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So the media release came out from ARN. So important for context here. They put out a market announcement. And again, there's a big difference between a glossy, show busy, spin related media release and one that you actually give to the Australian Stock Exchange with clear factual detail. So based on what ARN told the Australian Stock Exchange this morning, what do we know?
So from what I can tell from, the legal proceedings commenced by Jacqueline Henderson, look, seeing her name like that just makes it completely real. And I know it's completely real. And I know this sounds a bit daft, but it just drives home the fact that this is absolutely like the gloves are off.
Yep.
So in summary, the applicants claim that the termination of Miss Henderson's contract constituted adverse action. Miss Henderson sent a complaint letter to the CBC. Now, I don't know what the CBC was, but apparently it is the subsidiary of ARN. So let's just say ARN at the moment to make this a bit easier for everyone, which noted that Ms. Henderson cannot continue to work with Mr. Kyle Sandilands and made psychosocial health and safety and bullying complaints in relation to the conduct of Mr. Kyle Sandilands on and prior to 20 February 2026.
Now, there's always one line in a media release, I reckon, that jumps off the page. This one did for me, on and prior to. So what this suggests is that the incident that we're all aware of, which of course was the thing that Kyle is constantly reframing as a fight, where he actually was bullying Jackie to the point she was crying and didn't want to work with him, just to be clear. He's now basically got that down as like, well, that's what we used to do all the time and that's just how the show goes. But the fact that Jackie has said to ARN that there were health and safety and bullying complaints in relation to his conduct, no one else's, his conduct, on and prior to, that would suggest that Jackie has a record of some sort, right?
Yeah. Look, from sources, and these sources told me this, the moment that Jackie stepped away from the show and I was talking to them and saying, what's going to happen? Is she going to come back? And people at the time said, absolutely not. And what I was told was that she has a quote unquote log of incidents that happened between her and Kyle. I don't know the contents of it. I don't know how long it goes back. I can't answer and give you any more detail than that. But that to me signals that this isn't or that particular incident wasn't a straw that broke the camel's back, which is, I think, what Kyle has been saying in the media. So clearly this is something that has been troubling her for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's important to note is that Kyle's legal proceedings in court against ARN are pretty much related to the fact that he believes his termination was illegal. You know, they weren't allowed to terminate his contract. He wasn't allowed to remedy it, all that stuff. Interestingly, Jackie's action is in the federal court, but what it talks about is that they believe, or Jackie believes, that the termination of a contract was a contravention of the Fair Work Act. And it's alleged the termination of a contract amounted to repudiation of that agreement that she had. Now, I found this fascinating, Tash, because we know that Kyle's salary has been outlined in all these different categories of 200 grand for this and flights for 120 grand or whatever. Jackie's action has actually, and this is in the ARN release, Jackie's action has said that the applicants that claim compensation of, quote, at least $82.25 million and payment of a pecuniary penalty plus interest plus costs. So Jackie's going for the whole gamut. She's not like fiddling around the edges. She's saying effectively, I gave you a complaint letter about this guy. It related to bullying and health and safety incidents, not only on that 20th of Feb, but prior to. And the end result is you've basically gone and terminated my contract. No, that's not right. And now I'm going to go you.
Look, Yeah, absolutely right. There would have been a termination resignation clause in the contract. Every contract has
Yep.
it. Also, the
Yep.
Fair Work
Yep.
Act would stipulate terms for termination and unfair dismissal. I don't know exactly what they are, but I mean, to put this in layman's terms, that's as if you go to your boss and you make a complaint about somebody that you're working with and then you get fired. You can't do that. I
Yep.
mean, that just doesn't happen.
You can't
That's
do that.
completely
No.
and utterly, straight down the line of an unfair dismissal. If you do make a complaint, I don't know what's happened in the past, what you go to mediation or, the issue is raised with the fellow employee. So it seems like she's got a much better chance of being successful in saying that she was fired for complaining.
Well, and I think this is the interesting point, and this is what's obviously going to play out now because the court action that we know of is what's been put in ARN media releases. Like we haven't heard from Jackie herself about this legal action as we record this now. We've only heard from ARN. ARN are disputing the claims, to be fair. They've put in their media release that they dispute the claims. It intends to defend the proceedings. Interestingly, it also says, given the early stage of the matter, ARN is unable to reliably estimate the outcome or any potential financial impact.
No shit, Sherlock. No
Yeah, I
shit.
know.
I
But
mean,
if I go back to the Kyle stuff, right? The Kyle's announcement was on the 23rd, so last Monday. So we're only 8 days later, and the bottom of this ARN media release for Kyle is word perfect with the Jackie one. ARN disputes the claims, intends to defend the proceedings. Given the early stage, we're unable to blah blah blah. So, in the nutshell of this, right, is we've got the two highest paid personalities of that company and in the media in general in Australia. Both of them have actions against their employer or the person they had contract for services with, being ARN. The end result of that is we've got one person saying, listen, I had a contract. I'm Kyle. I had a contract. It was worth this amount. I want my job back. Like, I'm happy to come back. We've got the other person saying, well, actually, you owe me a heap of money. And as we sit here today, as we record this at lunchtime on Tuesday, the market cap of ARN is $90 million. And
oh,
yet, this is
that
like,
good, Wade? Is that good?
no, not great. Not great. And also the revenue that they had over the last 12 months compared to the prior 12 months was on the way down. So I think what we've got here, Tash, from what it looks to me, is like we can play a couple of angles here. One is the Kyle and Jackie O angle, of course, because they're interesting people with big numbers and they were happy to parade those numbers, and now they've got legal action. The other thing that I think will follow quickly in the story rather, and will probably be tomorrow's newspapers, particularly, will be the future of ARN, because this is I'd almost say this is an existential event. They've got the two highest paid people wanting money from them without producing a show that they can drive revenue from. Right? Remember that. There's money going out potentially, but nothing coming in. They then have a situation where the company itself has lost value and is losing revenue. They have to do something. They haven't announced a Sydney or Melbourne breakfast show. And I just can't imagine what it would be like inside ARN at the moment.
Not good, I'm told.
No, not good.
But also, I can't. I mean, the mind just boggles. Given both Kyle and Jack have found legal elements, precedent that they are able to go to court with, in
Yep.
terms of the way they've been treated by ARN, and I can't fathom how a company like that could not have been more thorough in making such a monumental decision. Like, the show is really, it is central to the success of ARN. There is no kiss without Kyle and Jackie O. Thinking that is completely, I mean, it's completely ignorant, and which brings me to an idea as well that there are a lot of TV people in there, and the thought that perhaps a network or a show can continue without a main cast member. It doesn't work like that in radio, right? Like, Kiss is Kyle and Jackie O. Before we wrap up, I want to get to this line too. The applicants also claimed that ARN's ASX market announcement included misleading and deceptive statements under the Australian consumer law. That was also told to me very early on by a source. I'm not going to get into exactly what the statement was in the claim, but if there is evidence and they can prove, at least Jackie's camp can prove, that what was said in the ASX statement was false, I think it would be the final nail in the coffin for ARN. And I cannot, again, understand how if it was an error, if they thought nobody would pick up on it, or if it's and this is me, this is just my opinion, only going off what
Yeah, of course.
sources told me, and I could be completely wrong. And
Yeah.
it's happened, I mean, once before. But the thing is, I can't understand how that can happen in terms of a big company releasing a statement to the ASX. It's not like you just put in a prompt into ChatGPT and say, write me
Yeah,
an
it
AS,
has to be right.
right? This goes through a lot of eyes. It goes through a lot of levels in a company. So
Yeah.
if what they're saying and what I've been told was false and it was falsely included in there, it would be such an easy win for Jackie's camp. Again, the mind boggles how that would have gotten through to the keeper.
Got in there. And of course, we think we're referring to, we don't know, we think we're referring to the claim that Jackie had been offered an alternate show or something like that. That was kind of the quote. But
Yes.
I'll run a separate theory for you, Tash, just on this. Because, again, what we're dealing with here is like we've got some statement of facts that have come via media releases from the company. And then we've got basically our opinion of what's going on. And to separate out those two, what we're doing here is basically giving our opinion. But I'll give an alternate one. I think every party in this, Jackie, Kyle, ARN, I think this has been something that has been game planned for a long time. Now, I don't mean maliciously. I don't think it's with intent to get rid of them both from ARN's perspective. I don't think it's maliciously in the intent of Jackie's trying to get rid of Kyle or Kyle trying to not work there anymore. But have a think about this. Think about the amount of legality and contract stuff you go to when you're buying a house or you're going through a marriage breakup or whatever's going on in your life, right? And the amount of legals you go through. There is absolutely no way that I could believe at all that if you're sitting down with two people who have contracts for services and the contracts are worth $200 million over 10 years, that at that moment, before those contracts are signed, ARN, Jackie and Kyle have all sought legal advice on those contracts. And all of them would have game plan scenarios of what happens if Kyle dies? What happens if Jackie doesn't work with Kyle anymore? What happens if Kyle doesn't work with Jackie? What happens if Kyle goes off on a bender and never comes back? Or anything in there would have been game planned. So my view on this is what you're seeing play out is not as surprising and as unpredictable as it is. It is for us in the media because we kind of think, oh, wow, that's a shock. But I actually think from a legal perspective, I've got a feeling this what we're seeing play out is playing out as it would have been planned in any scenario planning risk assessment that would have been done at the time of the contract signing 2 years ago. And that's what I think.
Yeah, I actually don't think you're too far off. I remember internal chats because I was working at ARN when the contract was signed, and I remember internal chats at the time were external chats were talking about Kyle and his health and the longevity of the contract, given he spoke a lot about his health problems. And a source, well, wasn't a source at the time because I was working there, said to me, no, Jackie has always been the flight risk.
Right, interesting.
So,
yeah.
But this is years and years and years ago, right?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to know. I mean, it's hard to know those things too because, like, God, I mean, no one would have actually said this situation's going to happen, but I cannot believe that none of them planned for it. I mean, the fact that some people are saying Jackie didn't even get legal advice of this issue, that's complete bullshit. She would have had legal advice way back when.
Of course she would have had legal advice. And the fact, I mean, and, I mean, they play this, they always do this and they tend to do it a lot with the women, but she's an incredibly smart businesswoman. I mean, remember that. She's not just an on-air personality. She is a smart businesswoman. You do not become the highest paid female in Australian media without having some nous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All
right, Tash. So I love talking to you about media. So why don't we drop a little exclusive of our own here? How about we start a media podcast together?
I think that sounds amazing, Wade. I need someone.
You need an outlet?
I need an outlet, someone I can talk to with my wine, who is actually going to listen and not just sit and nod.
Right. Okay. Well, I guarantee you that's exactly what's going to happen. But I'll also debate and discuss and we'll have some conversation. So why don't we launch it? Let's call it Media Tarts because we're both media tarts. We just love media so much.
Media tarts.
And it feels to me like if we were coming up with a tagline, it would be like Media Watch if you met it at a bar at 5 o'clock on a Friday with a glass of champagne.
I love. Yes, I love.
Okay,
I love.
That's
absolutely.
Us. All right. Well, why don't we kick it off next week? Because there's no shortage of stuff to talk about.
What a time to kick it off too, right? I started a story today going on in media today, and I feel like I could start every story off like that.
Okay, great. Well, what a time to be alive. What a time to start a media podcast. So next week in your podcast feeds.
Promise it can be cheeky too.
Cheeky. Yeah, we like to have fun. Yeah, we like to have fun and have a bit of a catch up and a reflect. And I've already got a good topic for next week. Can I share it with you now? I don't know if I've told you this. Have I told you this?
Yeah, you can't. You can't. God, you're a tart and a tease, Wade Kingsley.
I'll take both. I reckon we should talk about why the media is so seduced by Kyle. He's running
Okay.
rings around the media at the moment
Mhm.
in terms of putting his own narrative about reframing what really happened. He turns up at court and everyone covers him. It's like a circus. And I just have a question in my mind, an open question, which I'd love to discuss with you. Why do the media get seduced by personalities like Kyle? How's
I
that?
want you to tell me now, but no, let's wait. Let's wait over Easter.
Let's do it next week.
Let's-
I don't have any champagne on ice, so we'll have to wait till next week.
I will have enough for both of us.
Okay, good.
Enjoy Easter. Have a wonderful time. Eat lots of chocolate.
Thank you. And we'll see you on the Media Tarts podcast next week.
See you on Media Tarts. Bye.
Bye, Tash. Bye. Natasha Lee there, media editor of Mediaweek, who does a great job. And as you heard, we're going to do a podcast together next week. All right, so tomorrow, the quarter hour, we've got more reaction from what's happening in Australia. And also, we're going to have reaction from what's happening with Scott Mills in the BBC in the UK. We'll talk to some more informed sources and media people in the UK. But for now, dear listener, that's been the quarter hour. Goodbye.